Most individuals don't fail due to weakness, they fail because they were never conditioned to win. From the beginning, society installs a default mental program crafted to make you compliant, controllable, and predictable. You're taught that kindness conquers all, that patience is always a virtue, and that being liked matters more than being respected. And you accept it because everyone around you is running on the same flawed system. But Machiavelli developed a completely different kind of software, not engineered for peace, but built for power. If you want to redesign your life into something formidable, something respected, feared, and silently envied, you must do the unthinkable. Erase the mind you inherited and replace it with one meant to dominate. This shift begins by embedding 7 core Machiavellian beliefs. First, treat emotions as signals, not instructions. Most people are unknowingly enslaved by their emotions. They dress up their outbursts as honesty, their breakdowns as authenticity. But to Machiavelli, emotions are merely input, not directives. Fear shows where your power ends. Anger signals a boundary has been breached. Envy points directly at what you desire, but deny. The key? You never let feelings take the wheel. The powerful mind treats emotions like a forecast. You check the skies, prepare, then act. You don't abort the mission because it's raining, and you don't face a storm without armor. Machiavellians don't suppress emotion, they wield it. They don't worship feelings, they weaponize them. Second, understand that power lives in perception. To a Machiavellian, truth is flexible, appearance is everything. If others believe you hold power, they treat you as if you do. If they perceive weakness, 7, if it's false, they'll crush you without pause. This is the harsh reality of optics. A quiet man is mistaken for wise. A composed reaction is read as confidence, and a cold glance makes people reconsider disrespect. You don't need to intimidate, you need to seem like someone who knows more than they say. Power is 80% illusion, 20% execution. While most people waste time trying to prove themselves, the Machiavellian avoids that trap. He doesn't explain, he implies. He allows the unknown to speak for him. Third, realize that whoever frames the situation controls it. Every interaction, every disagreement, every relationship follows an invisible narrative, a frame. The one who defines the frame sets the rules. The one who accepts it becomes a character in someone else's story. While the average person enters a room hoping to blend in, the Machiavellian enters and subtly reshapes the entire energy. If someone mocks you, don't explain. Ask why they're so invested in you. If someone questions your skill, don't justify. Respond with a smirk. Because to control the frame is to control the outcome. If someone attempts to dominate a conversation, pause and speak second. Always second. Because the second voice holds power. A mind trained in this way doesn't merely react to reality, it constantly redefines it. Why? Because it knows. The moment you allow someone else to dictate the meaning of a situation, you've already surrendered control. Fourth, treat connection as a strategy, not a necessity. Fragile minds chase attachment because they're terrified of solitude. They enter relationships not from strength, but from scarcity, searching for attention, validation, or purpose. Machiavelli never chased connection, he engineered it with intent. To him, human relationships weren't sacred, they were strategic. Some were brief, others enduring, but all served a function. The powerful mind doesn't crave emotional dependence, it builds leverage. It offers just enough to intrigue. It listens more than it speaks to gather insight. Loyalty is given, but only to those who prove worthy through strength, not closeness. And when a connection begins to drain rather than sharpen, it's cut clean, without sentiment. Fifth, redefine isolation as reinforcement, not weakness. In modern culture, solitude is seen as deficiency. If you're not always busy, social, or online, you're seen as falling behind. But the Machiavellian knows isolation isn't emptiness, it's refinement. It's rehearsal. It's where the mental architecture is upgraded, free from distraction. While most people are trapped in dopamine loop, scrolling, Reacting, comparing the strategic mind is focused elsewhere, training discipline, expanding capacity for silence, and preparing for moves no one sees coming. Most fear their thoughts, that's why they flood every moment with noise. The Machiavellian seeks silence because silence sharpens judgment. Sixth, understand that morality is not fixed. This is where many people recoil. They want power but without contamination. They want results but with clean hands. They want to be good even when goodness leads to failure. Machiavelli never flinched. If your ethics always override your ambition, you remain stuck in mediocrity. This isn't about becoming evil, it's about becoming adaptable. Ethics must shift with the terrain. When lying shields your mission, use it. When manipulation prevents collapse, deploy it. When kindness turns into vulnerability, cut it out like infection. A truly dangerous mind can hold two truths at once: to act justly when possible and without mercy when necessary. Because in this world, only fluid morality survives the fire and rises to rule. Seventh, final belief separating pretenders from the truly dangerous is this: peace is not a destination, it's a tactic. Most people treat peace as the prize at the end of life. The Machiavellian knows peace is a strategy, a temporary pause meant for restoration, realignment, and preparation for the next strike. He understands the truth. The game never ends. That influence is never guaranteed. That power must be preserved, protected, and recalibrated daily. So he avoids lingering in celebration, never rests too long, and never mistakes comfort for security. Because the instant you feel safest, the moment someone begins planning to take everything from you. Now that you've uncovered the beliefs, the real challenge is this: can you truly install them? Because once they take root, you don't just become resistant to manipulation. You become untouchable. You don't have to be loud or aggressive to be dangerous. In fact, the most formidable minds are the most composed. They don't broadcast their transformation. They don't demand attention. They simply evolve quietly and precisely until the person they once were is no longer recognizable. With the 7 core beliefs embedded, the shift begins. This is when the environment around you starts to react. Some people will drift away. Others will shrink in discomfort. But most importantly, you'll begin to see what you were blind to all along. You'll start to recognize how others try to shame your strength. When you stop behaving like someone who seeks approval, when you begin acting like someone governed by internal command, they will notice. But don't expect praise. You'll hear remarks like, "You've changed," or "You're acting distant," or "Why are you so cold lately?" Understand this clearly: those aren't observations. They're defense responses. You've disrupted their familiar control dynamics. You no longer provide predictable emotions, easy access, or explainable behavior. And the Machiavellian understands this well. Sometimes, power wears the mask of indifference, seen it, out of cruelty, but out of protection. Let them wonder. Let them speculate. That confusion you spark in their eyes, it's the cost of upgrading your mind. That's your confirmation you're on the right path. Now, every reaction you give is a calculated investment. Previously, you offered reactions without thought. Someone disrespected you, you argued. Someone disappeared, you chased. Someone crossed the line, you forgave automatically. But the Machiavellian doesn't respond on emotion, he acts based on return. You don't respond unless it strengthens your position. You don't engage unless it gives you control. You don't explain unless it serves your long game. And this does something powerful: it destabilizes people quickly. They can't predict you. They can't provoke you. They can't decode your silence. And that's exactly what makes you a threat. When your responses are no longer cheap, your presence becomes high value. And once you're costly to reach, you're dangerous to misjudge. You start viewing all relationships through the lens of power. Before, you were taught to treat relationships, whether romantic, professional, or personal, as sacred and unconditional, as places of safety and emotional refuge. But once your thinking evolves, you begin to see the truth. Every relationship is a transaction of influence. Every compliment, every pause, every favor, they're all deliberate moves in an unspoken psychological exchange. The dangerous mind doesn't spiral into paranoia. He doesn't assume deception behind every interaction. What he does is far more powerful, starts observing the game in real time. He watches who talks to impress and who talks to manipulate, who flatters to support and who flatters to steer, who gives with trust and who gives with a chain attached. This mental upgrade alone clears out 90% of the people who only appeared supportive. Because now you see their actual intentions. And once you spot it, you stop being used unknowingly. You begin to wield silence like a psychological weapon. Untrained minds fill silence out of anxiety. They speak to break tension, to gain approval, or to escape discomfort. But the Machiavellian knows silence is pressure. It makes people squirm, ramble, and reveal more than they intend. And once this system becomes second nature, you understand. Speaking less doesn't make you weak, it makes you dangerously unreadable. Picture this. During negotiations, you let them go first. They spill their terms prematurely. In conflict, you pause and the silence makes them question their stance. In groups, you watch while others scramble to be noticed. And when you finally speak, it echoes with force. Most crave being heard. Machiavellians crave being remembered. And when silence is used with precision, it becomes a presence too powerful to fake. It tells the world you don't need this moment to validate you. That single shift flips the power structure entirely. You stop debating with those who don't deserve your energy. One of the clearest signs your mind has been reprogrammed is this. You no longer justify yourself to those who haven't earned that clarity. Once you truly grasp that perception outweighs truth, and that not all truths matter, you realize. Most arguments are power traps. They're not about resolving. They're about dominating. You spot it in the coworker cloaking attacks as questions, in the friend who masks insults with humor, in the partner who starts fights to throw you off balance. In the past, you might have defended your reputation. Now you smile, nod, and exit. Because a powerful mind understands. Silence, mystery, and strategic withdrawal leave a mark deeper than any comeback ever could. Your emotional detachment begins to disturb people. When you embrace connection as a calculated tool, not a dependency, you begin emotionally detaching from others' chaos. You're no longer the one stuck on late-night calls out of guilt. No longer the therapist friend coaching those who never evolve. No longer the partner who abandons ambition just to keep things calm. And when that distance locks in, when you move like someone who needs no one people unravel, they sense that your value isn't up for discussion, that you're not seeking approval, validation, or performance points. And it rattles them because suddenly they're no longer the priority, you are. Your enemies stop attacking you directly. This is the final confirmation that the Machiavellian operating system has fully taken root. Your adversaries stop confronting you head-on. Why? Because now you're unreadable, unshakable, unpredictable. You don't react as expected. You don't play by their rules. You don't brawl in the open. You don't reveal your hand. And most frightening of all, you've mastered the art of long-term strategy. So rather than launch direct attacks, they shift to whispers, passive stabs, subtle character games, and quiet sabotage. But at that point, it's already too late. You're 10 steps ahead, observing, anticipating, calculating. And you? You remain unfazed. Because you're not here to win applause. You're here to build silent strength and watch them suffocate under the weight of their own assumptions. This is the effect when beliefs evolve into embedded instinct. You no longer assert dominance, you emit it. You don't pursue status, you are status. Your mind is now your sovereign ground. And you're not a follower anymore. You're the one in command. Every transformation reaches a point of no return. You don't try to be strategic anymore, it becomes second nature. You don't pretend to be composed, you are composed. You don't play the game, you design the game. At this level, the Machiavellian OS isn't something you consciously apply, it's running quietly, constantly, like background code. Controlled, silent, precise. But now comes the evolution. The beliefs alone are not enough. To make them lethal, you must fuse them with behavioral upgrades. You don't just know the code, you embody it. Here's what that looks like. You stop suppressing emotions, you begin directing them. Early in rewiring the mind, people try to control emotion by shutting it down. But Machiavelli didn't bury emotion, he redirected it. Master tacticians don't destroy fear or anger, they convert it. Rage becomes focus. Fear becomes preparation. Sadness becomes insight, a reflection showing you what must be recalibrated. You don't bury these emotions, you wield them like fire. Close enough to illuminate your path, distant enough not to burn you. That's emotional command, not numbness, but composure under pressure. You face the entire storm and walk straight through it. You replace reactivity with calculation. Most people live like emotional marionettes jerked around by each moment. Someone offends them, they explode. Someone betrays them, they collapse. Someone withholds attention, they scramble. But with the Machiavellian system installed, your instinct is no longer to react, it's to compute. You don't ask, how do I feel? You ask, what are they aiming to make me feel? What do they want me to say? How do I disrupt their pattern without exposing mine? That kind of mind doesn't lash out, it dissects. And in that dissection, you stop dancing to their script, you become the one writing it. They respond to your silence now. You no longer allow others to define your worth. Before this mental rewrite, your value was dictated by societal checkboxes, follower counts, busyness, social approval. But the dangerous mind ignores all that. He creates his own metrics. He asks, did I maintain composure when pressure hit? Did I speak less and still say more? Did I build advantage without flashing it? You come to understand that value is internal, reputation is optional, and visibility is a calculated decision. Machiavellians don't chase recognition, they create their own meaning. The moment someone tries to assess you using their standards, you rewrite the rules. And the moment you stop relying on external approval to feel powerful, you become immovable. You stop fearing being misunderstood. Fragile minds obsess over being seen for who they are. They clarify themselves to skeptics, defend themselves to cynics, and desperately try to be perceived correctly. But the Machiavellian doesn't crave clarity, flourishes in the fog. Because you've grasped a brutal insight. The more mysterious you are, the more people speculate. The more silent you are, the more they project. The more they misunderstand you, the more power you hold. Clarity is overrated. Confusion creates curiosity. And curiosity becomes obsession. So you let them speculate. You let them misread you. And you never rush to fix the version of you that exists in their mind, because their misjudgment is your disguise. You begin to use praise with surgical precision. Most people give compliments because they mean them. That sounds noble, but it's predictable. Soft. Easily exploitable. The Machiavellian, however, uses praise as a tactic. You flatter not to be liked, but to soften resistance. You applaud your rival in public not out of admiration, but to lull them into comfort. You boost someone's ego not because it's earned, but because it makes them vulnerable. Praise, when precise and scarce, becomes addictive. People crave your approval, and once they do, they obey. Subtle, well-timed praise builds influence that criticism can never touch. And the best part? They won't even notice, they'll think your control is kindness. You now grasp a deadly truth. Visibility invites attack. One of Machiavelli's most ruthless lessons is this: those most seen are easiest to strike. Real power rarely shows itself. The most dangerous figures in the room aren't loud. They don't flaunt their control. They don't beg for applause. They don't overshare their moves, they function in shadows. You begin to see mystery as a weapon, underestimation as an asset, noise as exposure, predictability as a fatal flaw. So you maneuver in silence. You influence in whispers. And when you finally act, it lands like a lightning bolt out of a clear sky. And then you realize your mind is no longer fully your own. Once the Machiavellian mindset is deeply embedded, something unexpected happens. You recognize your own thinking has become dangerous, not just for others, but for you, because now you can explain away coldness, justify emotional distance, excuse manipulation. This is where most lose their way. They let strategy become cruelty. They let detachment rot into emptiness. They forget the why behind the power. But a true Machiavellian never does. He remembers power is a tool, not a narcotic. Control is a means, not the meaning. And ruthlessness, when aimless, is just self-destruction in disguise. So he builds a final firewall deep within his Minda boundary he refuses to cross. Because he understands, if you abandon your humanity in pursuit of domination, then you've already been defeated from within. This is the paradox of the truly dangerous mind. It is calculated, but not cruel, quiet, but never passive, tactical, but never empty. And once you reach this state, there's no return. You've replaced blind obedience with observation, emotional outbursts with precision, desperation with structure and design. You no longer move like the crowd, you move like a mind engineered to operate from the shadows. No one becomes dangerous by accident. It happens when every word, every silence, every move is carefully crafted not for applause, but for positioning. At this stage, the Machiavellian OS is fully integrated. It doesn't seek validation. It doesn't need to explain. It simply operates constantly scanning your environment, predicting threats before they appear, and guarding your core without revealing what lies inside. But here's the highest tier, the level few speak of. Real Machiavellian strength isn't just about defeating external threats, it's about mastering yourself with ruthless precision. What does that look like? You begin to manipulate time itself. While most people exist inside a reactive loop responding to every ping, every demand, every trend, you operate on your own rhythm. Messages don't demand immediate answers. Popularity doesn't demand your presence. Pressure doesn't dictate your moves. You live on psychological time. You pause while others scramble. You wait while they chase. You delay gratification not from lack of desire but from discipline. By managing your own tempo, you build the illusion of dominance. People assume you must be important, too grounded to rush. But in reality, you've simply chosen not to dance to their tempo. He who controls timing controls outcome. You expect betrayal without letting it corrode you. A mind this sharp doesn't wonder if betrayal will happen, it expects it. No loyalty is forever. No alliance, untouchable. People will betray for survival, for greed, for attention, or for no reason at all. But here's the key: you don't grow bitter. You grow ready. You build fallback routes. You maintain emotional distance. You let others believe they have more of you than they ever did. You read the tension in their smiles, the hesitation in their voice, the delay in their text. You sense the shift before the knife is even drawn. And when it arrives, you don't panic. You've already played this scene in your mind, quietly, many times. You learn to vanish with intent. Power often demands retreat not from fear, but from wisdom. There are moments when staying in the spotlight dulls your edge, when over-explaining gives away your position, when reacting too soon hands over your emotional state. So the Machiavellian steps back not permanently, but just long enough to be missed, to be whispered about, to be feared. You disappear from the group chat. You vanish after a visible victory. You retreat while they speculate and return once they've forgotten how to strike. The goal isn't absence sights influence through unpredictability. When they can't find you, they can't aim. When they can't read you, they can't manipulate. When they stop knowing what to expect, they start treating you with caution. Loyalty is rewarded in silence and betrayal is punished the same way. The ultimate trait of a truly dangerous mind is not aggression, it's restraint. You don't parade loyalty. You don't announce consequences. You move quietly but decisively. If someone proves their value, lift them. No applause, no ceremony, just greater access. If someone fractures trust, you don't yell, plead, or warn. You just disappear from their world. No explanation, no closure. You remove your energy, your presence, your trust, and they feel the void instantly because you've instilled the most important rule in your universe. Disloyalty isn't confronted, it's erased. And the silence that trails in your wake speaks louder than vengeance ever will.